Okay, back to Monday Night Mishlei. And today we have a pasuk, which is only a coincidence that this is on election day, or on the eve of election day, because we've been doing these pasukim about kings. So um, we'll have to have this in the back of our mind and see whether it applies. Okay, Mishlei 16:13. Ritzon milachim sifsei tzedek, v'dover yesharim ye'ehav. Who would like to try translating? Anyone?
I can try.
Um, oh,
Either of you.
Okay. The the will of kings is righteous lips,
Okay, the will of kings is righteous lips.
and
The,
those who speak straightnesses
okay, good. That's a good
he
little.
will love.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just slight tweak of those who speak. You could say, but that to me leaves it ambiguous about plural or singular. So I'm gonna say and one who speaks. Yesharim, so literally straightnesses or uprightnesses. Okay. And then ye'ehav, I believe is um I think that's will be loved. I think we'll check out the English and see. Okay. I think it is will be loved. So future tense, passive. I don't know exactly how to say it. Okay. All right, good. And then there are other translations for Rutzone. Will is how I would have translated it, but there are other ones as well. Any other translations anyone have? I can think of two more. Related, obviously, but
that sounds, everything is bothering me right now.
sorry, say it again.
Desire.
Desire. Okay, good. And then uh third one. Anyone have another one? Like what is let me think Yihu Laratzon Imrefi. I mean, I guess you could use these for that also. Yeah, Isaiah.
Favor,
Favor,
appeasement.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's the other one. Yeah, actually, I'm going to see what the BDB says and see if there are any other good words here. Um, Goodwill, favor, acceptance, or will. Okay, fine. Acceptance is a little bit misleading, I think, in this case. So the ratzon of kings is righteous lips, and one oh okay, righteous lips is good. The only thing I'm uncertain about, actually, I think it's more accurate to say lips of righteousness. Uh, and righteous lips would be I don't know my grammar well enough. I don't know if the I feel like tzedek would be in plural if it was righteous lips. So lips of righteousness, which might mean the same thing, but I just want to try to preserve the nuances here. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So Sadigon translates it as V'chova sheyehe rotzonom. So it looks like he only maybe either I omitted the word king or he's the this edition just doesn't have it, but B'chobashihe Ritzonam al Sifsei HaTzedek. So the it is obligatory that the favor of kings be upon lips of righteousness. V'hadvarim v'hadvarim v'yasharim ye'ahavu, and that and that the statements and the uprightnesses be beloved to them, I think. Yeah, Isaiah?
Does chova here just mean like the pasuk is speaking in like non-equivocal? Is that the right word? Like it always is true. Is that what he means by
I
chova?
think he just means so I think what he is well, let me ask you, and I know this is gonna kind of get into the questions, okay, but anyone okay, so effectively what he's doing is he's making the puzzle imperative, like that it's prescriptive instead of descriptive, right? They should do this, not that they do this. Okay. What do you think is motivating him to do that? Question for anyone. Like, why would he not take it just the way that it's said? Why would he add in the word it's obligatory? And just to comment on what Isaiah said, I don't think it's to say that this is always the case, because obligatory does not mean that it's always the case. In fact, the opposite. Say it's obligatory, it means that it's not always the case. Because if it were, then you wouldn't have to oblige him to do it. Yeah, Isaiah?
I mean, maybe I feel like to me it seems hard to say, but like maybe the ratzon, something that he could have control over. So he should, I don't know exactly, like he should make it that, like ratzon
Okay.
is the food thing.
Okay, it is possible that he's getting it, that he is getting it from there. I would say simply that what's motivating him is that this pasuk does not seem true. Like, really? Like, you really think, if you look through history, right, you count up how many kings um love righteousness, not that many, right? So I think he's responding to that. Again, I have no way of knowing for sure, but yeah. Okay. Then we got the Targum, the Aramaic translation. Ru'usei demalka sifvasa de tzidkasa. Okay, so the ratzon of the king, so he makes it singular, is sifvasa de tzidkasa, is lips of righteousness. Okay. Umilsa de tritze rachem. Anyone see what he's doing with the word milsa? I don't know how good everyone's Aramaic is here, but milsa is something that is significant here. Why is he? What do you see from translating dover as milsa?
Not just words.
Yeah, he's changing it from dover, which means a speaker, to milsa, which means a statement. Okay, a statement de tritze of the upright, rachim, he loves. Okay, now I've talked about this elsewhere. I don't remember if I've talked about it tonight, but sometimes the Targum is going off of a different textual tradition than the one that we have. So in the actual text, obviously there are no vowels. So ours says dover. It's possible that the Targum was going off of a text that said vidavar yesharim yehav. Okay, so that's why it's so radically different here. ArtScroll says the desire. Yeah, Isaiah.
Why are you saying milsa would be statement, not just like thing?
Well, I think thing would is just not it could be thing, um I'd say statement just because we're talking about speech. Yeah, but it means davar, so yeah, statement or thing. Um yeah, okay. ArtScroll says the desire of kings is righteous lips. So you got to support there, righteous lips. And he will love, oh, also, that's what you said as well. He will love one who speaks upright words. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go with the grammar for the second part. He will love. Yeah. He will love one who speaks Yesharim. Okay. Refer says lips of righteousness should be the wish of kings. Okay, so he says ratzon as wish. I don't know if I like the word wish in English, but he also adds in like Sadion should, and he should love one who speaks right. Okay, right is actually um, a good translation of yashar. Okay, or right. Alter says righteous lips are the pleasure of kings. Now I think this is using pleasure not in the sense of like oneg or like enjoyment, but I think this is like I serve at the pleasure of the president means I serve at the will of the president. I think it's like an old-fashioned pleasure. And they love an honest speaker. Okay, honest is interesting also. I'll say we're honest. Okay. And then the footnote on Alter says the Hebrew verb of they love is in the singular and should be amended to be as plural or revocalized as passive. Oh, I did get it right. Is loved. Oh no, revocalized. Okay, whatever. Okay, fine. All right, so there's that. Okay, so let me copy and paste this into the chat. I'll leave all the translations up here in case we want to use them. Give me 1 second here. Copy and paste this into the chat. Okay. All right, what are the questions? Well, I'll put the question that I asked, okay, which is if according, I guess, according to the plain reading of the pasuk, okay, i.e., not Sadia Gaon or Refersh. This pasuk doesn't seem true, right? Kings, there are way more kings throughout history who did not value tzedek and yesharim than kings who did. Okay, so that is a problem. Yeah, Ayala.
What are Sifsei Tzedek and I guess Dover Yesharim?
Yeah, okay. So let's break that down into couple questions. Okay, first, what does tzedek, which we're translating as righteousness, you could translate it as justice, okay? Not justice in the sense of like mishpat of like implementing justice, but what does tzedek or righteousness mean in this context? What are lips of tzedek? Okay. What does yesharim mean in this context? And then what is a speaker of yesharim? Yeah, Rifki.
Also, like in a similar vein on those two parts of the pasuk, I'm assuming there's a connection, but what is the connection between like loving righteousness, like the king loving righteousness, and then also Yesharim, or the
Okay, yeah.
wanting it?
Okay, so you're asking the connection like between the two halves, right? Not specific parts.
Yeah, I guess the connection between the two halves, but like on that specifically, like about the connection between, it seems like there's a connection between righteousness and like Yashar, like those two character traits.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and frame this in the larger, cast a larger net here, which is what is the relationship between the two halves? Okay, they don't seem like opposites, right? This does not seem like a good decision, bad decision. So what is their relation? Okay, their interrelation. Yeah, and then along with that is Rifki's question about tzedek and yashar, sifsei and dover, ratzon and yehav, right? How are all the components relate to each other? Yeah, Isaiah.
Yeah, related to that, like why have ratzon be a noun in the first half, but yehav be a verb?
Okay, so let's
in the second half.
Let's ask the definition questions first, which is what does ratzon mean in this context? And then like I'll also say like how does it express itself? Right? Is it like just describing an internal reality of the king, or is it saying that therefore the king will do will like act on it somehow? Okay, meaning like is it just something the king feels or is it expressed? And if the latter, then in what manner? And then the other question is yehav. Okay, so the question is what is meant by love in this context? And then how does this express itself? And then the stylistic question, which is why is ratzon expressed as a noun, but yehav as a verb. Okay, Rifki.
Yeah, I'm assuming just like the audience question, my like initial assumption was it's probably for like the nation or like the subjects of the king because it's talking about his will. But I'm still just curious. Like it's just I don't know, for some reason this isn't clicking for me, this pasuk. Like it's a weird...
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, we have a bit of a difficulty cut out for us because half of the meforshim don't say anything. Or they say so little that like it's just not helpful. Like in fact, so little. Let me show you the Metzudas David now, which I never do. All he says is Sifsei Tzedek, Imre Tzedek, statements of righteousness, and Yehav is Elam Malachim. He will be beloved to the Malachim. That's all he says. I almost mistook this for Metzudas Tzion because he's just not explaining anything, you know. Okay, so wait, what did you just ask? Oh yeah, the audience, right? So who is the intended audience? Okay, well, one possibility is it the king? Which certainly Sadigon says it's the king, right? it's obligatory for the king to love this, right? So it's talking to the king, okay? Or one of, or his subjects, okay? And if the latter, then, who? How far does this extend? Yeah. Yalla.
So it seems like maybe it's an obvious answer, but according to Rav Saadia and like that he should desire lips of righteousness, why should he? And I guess that also
Okay.
has to do with like what are the consequences
Yeah,
of
okay, that's good. That's good. So, let me put that question over here, which is, what are the benefits and consequences here? And then according to Saadia Gaon, why should the king do this? Yeah. Yeah, Ayala.
another basic one is just what decision-making scenario is being discussed.
Yes, right. What decision-making scenario is being discussed here, if any? Yeah, if any specific one. What specific decision-making scenario? Yeah.
Rav Shemos?
Yeah.
I just want just a quick question and just understanding the first half of Rav Sadigon's statement, like it is obligatory that the favor of kings be upon lips of righteousness. So is he
Yeah.
saying that just is he saying that that it's obligatory for kings to uh to be involved with people who have lips of righteousness, or like he himself has that? Like I'm just trying to.
I don't think it's clear from Sadiq, I think he's
Oh, it's
he's
not
saying
clear.
kings should favor lips of righteousness, but it doesn't say whose lips, which I guess is a good question. Which is uh who who do who do these lips of tzedek belong to? Yeah. Um yeah, y'all.
I don't know if this is significant at all or true, but it seems like malachim is in plural, but then the second half is maybe singular. And it seems
Yeah.
like the translations deal with that different ways, maybe.
Yeah, right. There's also a lot of the meforshim deal with it. I'm just going to tell you right now. A lot of them acknowledge that, and they just say it means that he will be that um, each one of the kings will love him, or he will be beloved to each one of the kings. But they do grapple with that. So let's actually just ask another question, which is what is meant by king in this context? And then I used to think that that was kind of like not a throwaway question, but I used to think that I had a like go-to answer for that, which is that it's anyone in any position of power, and like it can scale down. Like you could talk about like a king of a nation, but you could also talk about like a boss of a company or like a principal of a school. But now that we've seen, a lot of psukim about kings, what's the I'll ask this, see if you think of what I'm thinking of. What's the for us in our society, what's the least intuitive meaning of king? And we've seen this before in our Monday Night Mishlei shiur this year. What other function is highlighted by king other than his like rulership?
Is being a judge.
His being a judge, okay, right? So what is meant by king in this context? And if that really changes it, right? Like if this pasuk said the ratzon of judges is on lips of righteousness, and he will love one who speaks Yisharim, that like completely changes the pasuk. So I'm gonna go ahead and say what is meant by king in this context: monarch or judge, okay? And then I'll add on to that, why is the first half in plural and the second in singular? Yeah. Yeah, Rivki?
So I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to apply. Maybe I just don't know enough about like the terms themselves, but I feel like Yasharim, like in order to be like Yashar, wouldn't that mean that you're automatically also like in like the realm of Tzedek?
Okay. So I'm gonna actually ask this question on the one about what's the relationship between the two halves. So they don't seem like opposites. What's their interrelation? And then is one half like being presented as superior to the other, right? So, as implied by love, right? Like love is definitely more than ratzon. I don't care how you say love, right? So it does sound like the second half is going to be better than the first half, But is that I'll put that here also, right? Uh, and if so, does that also imply that that uh one who speaks uprightness is better than one who has lips of righteousness?
That's also so interesting. I think that you're putting it that way because I was thinking the opposite. That like in order to be a person of tzedek, that you need to first be like yashar, like you need to understand uprightness, and then you can get to that level.
Right. Yeah. See, the difficulty here, by the way, is we in Mishlei are very familiar with tzedek. Yashar, I think it's very easy for us to just project the way that it's used in our society. And people say, oh, so and so is Yashar, but like, who knows if that has anything to do with what Shlomo means. So I think, I think, and by the way, well, I'll show you one thing that helps / doesn't help, which is in the opening of Mishlei when it talks about what Mishlei is for, it says, lakachas musar haskel, that Mishlei is to accept, to take intelligent discipline, tzedek umishpat umesharim. Okay, and mesharim is the same root as yashar. Okay, so is that like in like what's the order there? Let's just see how they translate mesharim: evenness, uprightness, equity. Okay, let me see how they translate it here. Yeah, yasharim, straight or right, upright. Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. Next is my dad.
What does this say about acts of righteousness?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's put that over here, which is this pasuk only talks about speech. But what about action? Yeah. Like
Charity.
yeah, right. Yeah. So let's just what about can we infer anything about how the king feels about those who act with righteous with tzedek and do mesharim? Yeah. All right, that's good. Okay, are those all the questions? Ratzon malachim sifsei tzedek. Oh no, I think we got one more question. What else is weird about, I guess, sifsei tzedek and dover yisharim? Unless we already asked this. I gotta look. Hold on. No, I think there's a question here.
Different pluralities.
Oh, that's also true. That is also true. Ayala.
I was just gonna say, what is the difference between Sifsei versus
Yeah,
Dover?
right. So I'd say, where are we here? Yeah, why is speech being characterized differently in each half, right? As lips in the first half and speaker in the second half. Yeah. Is that it? Okay, I feel like that's probably it. So I am going to copy and paste these questions. That was a lot more questions than I expected. By the way, I just made a spontaneous decision. I think what I'm going to do is, I planned to do something. Hold on. I had planned, or I toyed with the idea about maybe writing an article today about my thoughts on the election. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I think what I'll do is I will, after we're done with the pasuk, I'm going to stop the recording, start a new recording, and then just give my like 5-minute hot take on the election from a Mishlaic perspective. Okay. And then I'll post that as a paid subscriber article. But you guys you'll get to hear it because you're here. Okay. I feel like I need to say it to someone besides Michael Bruce's that I talked about it with already. Okay. Okay, so let us have our thinking minute. This is one of these ones, by the way, where I think you need to like pick a starting point, like figure out like where to begin here. It's a tough one, right? Okay, anyone have anything? I'm not seeing any hands. Getting nervous.
I
Yeah,
have
Isaiah. Okay.
basic ideas. Okay, Isaiah. Yeah.
No, I
Oh, sorry.
have.
Wait, Rifki, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying I can really only think of like Mishlei things, but are very simple. Like I'm not
All right, but
saying
remember that's a way to go. Is like you lean into the simple and then develop it. Okay, Isaiah, what's your
Okay,
what's your
I don't have a full approach, but
okay?
I have like a thought that I was having is
Yeah,
that maybe to answer like the question of like it doesn't seem true
yeah.
and not to go like Sajigon could be to say that like Malachim here it's kind of like saying what a true Melech is. Like
Okay,
a true Melech and someone who could lead like the nation like properly would be someone who would desire Sifsei Tzedek. I guess like he would want to hear those things. He would want to like point them out and like have a will for them. Um, and he would love like people who speak like in a straight manner and they like want to speak for justice. But yeah,
yeah.
I haven't thought about those things.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good. I like that. Yeah. Okay, that's a good step. Yeah, Ariel.
Um, okay, I want to actually uh not say like Isaiah.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I feel like that this pasuk is talking about a king. He he should surround himself. This is where it gets tricky. Idea like he should surround himself with people who are who have righteous ideas or righteous speech.
Yeah,
And it's interesting because like okay, the question is like let's say you have a richest kingdom, like meaning would you say that the person he's surrounded I don't know, but like I just know that like at least like Paro, like
yeah.
he it was like I don't know, just the measure says like he allowed for like the priests to not be touched. Like it was like a minhag makom that like they wouldn't be touched. Like he recognized that they were like like the wise people of the nation, and like he like there was an element that like he did see like there was chachma and like wisdom and like what they have. So maybe you could say that like he should surround himself with people who are who have like good advice, for the kingdom.
Okay. So who have righteous speech and advise him uprightly. Yeah, okay. So let's take that and work with it. Okay. First of all, before we go on, I
And
don't
okay.
oh sorry, I thought you were done.
Well, no, it was the first part, but I'm gonna let you finish.
No, I
I
was
have
just gonna
more
say
to
I don't
say.
understand at all what you meant by the paro thing. What do you mean that the priest can't be touched? And what does that have to
Oh,
do
I
with
mean, like he didn't enslave them. They were
Oh,
like it was more like I think he didn't enslave them, but there was a reason. There was a minhag Malcolm that Shevet Levi, he was like the priest and didn't enslave them.
oh,
It
you're
was like
talking about our priest. Okay,
Malcolm.
I have no idea. Okay, talking about our priests. You're not talking about Paro's priests. And
Not just
not be
ours,
touched
not just ours, in every religion.
on every religion. Okay, and you
Yeah,
say not
yeah.
being touched means not being enslaved, not as opposed to not being prosecuted or committed
Yeah.
crimes. Okay. And then you're saying that they had some sort of advisory role?
No, I'm not saying specifically about them. I'm just saying that he himself valued Chachma.
Okay, he values Chachma. Okay, all right. All right. Go
Now,
on, say what
how
you're
that
gonna say.
applies to righteousness, I have no idea. But
Yeah. Okay. Were you gonna say something else, or that's
yeah. So I was gonna say that like so like that speech and like and you also see that with like Shaul, like he surrounded himself with righteous well he thought righteous people and like he always valued their opinion and
yeah.
even David and Malach like he surrounded himself so maybe for that and like they had like good things to say, right? But the second part, you know and he will love one who speaks. Oh, I want to. Where's Rosati going? I like Rosati going better.
Other
Where is
one
he?
is up here.
Yeah. So now the question is, okay, then what's the statement? I mean, what's the difference between a statement of the upright he loves versus the speech?
Yeah.
Um, maybe I don't know. It's a stretch, but maybe you could say that like somehow, and this is the vague part, somehow a statement is it's more of like a I don't know, I don't know. It's more like a firm of a firm affirmation of the person's lifestyle as opposed to like speech. Maybe it's more like a I'm abandoning it. I don't know. It's not good.
Okay, okay. I'll tell
Uh,
you one thing. First of all, I think this is a good start. The other good thing is you've sparked an idea in me. Okay, so now I have an approach. Thanks for what you said. So, okay, so that's good. Good to start with. Okay. Um,
okay.
yeah. Okay. So let's leave this on the side burner, not the back burner. Okay, because I think there's definitely potential that we can come back here. Okay, let's go with Ayala next.
Okay, I think mine is similar, is like in the same vein as Ariel's also.
Okay.
But I was gonna say that based off of Sadiq of what the king should do,
Yeah.
and that the king, it like kind of the Havamina is like it's easy for everyone, but specifically a king to fall into the trap of surrounding himself by people who are popular or have a lot of money, especially like nobles or things like that, or like fame or whatever.
Yeah.
And especially because he's a king, like that is probably, yeah, like what society is like.
Yeah.
But it's important for him to surround himself by people who, and I'm taking lips of righteousness as that, like, that's their character and nature, is that, like, everything that comes out of their mouth is righteous. And then also beyond that, so that's the first half. And then beyond that, also, um, that, well, statements of uprightness I'm gonna interpret it as. And I was gonna say also in terms of like first I was talking about people who he should surround himself with, and the second half is like statements that he should associate himself with it, not just things that are like buzz topics or like fun to talk or like I don't know, will make him popular, but things which are true.
Okay. So you're saying he should love speakers of uprightness means that he should associate himself with people who the yeah, sorry,
So
I missed
I'm
that
taking
second
the
part.
Targum Suvim, I guess that a
Okay.
statement of the upright.
Okay, yeah. All right, so let me go Sadigon plus Targum, which is and associate himself with upright statements. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, good. So I think that's a good approach also. Anyone else have an approach along these lines? Because I think while we're on this approach that, no, by along these lines, I mean, anyone else have an approach that is talking about the king should surround himself with certain types of people? Yeah, Alex.
Um, yeah, my approach is very much within the same vein of both Ariana Yala, but specifically my head went to the advisors shouldn't just be like capable of like righteous thought and speech, is that they should
Ah,
actually bring it to fruition. Whereas oftentimes when it comes to people in power like kings, they'll be surrounded by yes men who will say what the king wants to hear.
yeah.
But I think with this, it kind of highlights the ability to surround yourself with people who kind of fight against that urge and genuinely advise you accordingly.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, I was gonna say that maybe like obligatory like according to Rav Sadigan just means that like it's necessary for the melech to um to to uh to surround himself with this because if you kind of think about it from the observer's perspective, like if I see a king who kind of just always thinks like he knows everything, like
Yeah.
I would be a little, I don't know, like I wouldn't like that. Like at the very least, if he's like consulting with people and if he like appreciates other people's like chachma, then like I would have more confidence in him. So like I think maybe Rosati was saying that for a king to last, he's obligated. It's almost like it's like look, it's like a blueprint for your malchus to last and not get overthrown or whatever. Regardless if you're like yeah, whatever, like a righteous king or a good king, like you should surround yourself with people who like give you good advice, you know.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just having a hard time seeing are you adding now? Because I thought you were already saying that it's telling the king what he should do. Are you just adding the point
Oh,
about it would make his kingdom last?
yeah, that's what I was
Okay.
adding. Like,
I'm just
I'm just trying to explain the obligation part. Like,
yeah. Okay, let me take a stab at this because my intuition, this is not worked out, but my intuition is going along this way also. So let me try saying it first and then I'll write it down. Is is that I think so I agree with this general approach that it's talking about who the king should surround himself with. And I like the way Ayala set it up, which is that there are going to be many people that the king would want to surround himself with. But this is what he should look for. Okay. And I think what it's saying is that there's two levels. Okay. Sifsei Tzedek I would say, and this is where I thought Ayala was going, but maybe I was just projecting. You know, the lips refer like when we do differentiate between the different words for speaking. So like mouth, tongue, lips. So the lips are the most superficial. Okay, and when you're talking, let's say about a fool, then that could be bad because when we talk about like superficial speech. But I think maybe what this is referring to, maybe, is that it's not enough for a person to have righteous values. They need to be able to express it and formulate it in an actionable way, meaning it needs to be able to be like formed on the lips. The part of you that the tongue, well, I guess the throat generates the sound, but the lips are things that like form the speech. So you need to be able to like articulate the righteousness, and that's something that is good. Okay. However, more important than that is a speaker who embodies it, and that's the way that they talk in a manner that is upright. Meaning that, let's say hypothetically you can have an advisor who knows let's just use our normal definition of tzedek in Mishlei, which is what do you call doing what's good for the system, so you can have someone who can formulate righteous principles and policies, but and the king will like that, or should like that, but what is really good is if they actually are a true speaker, someone who speaks honestly. And I guess what I'm saying, and I'm of two minds here, meaning it could be that this is saying that if you have a choice between one or the other, then the Dover Yesharim is going to be more important. Or this could be saying that if you're just a Sifsei Tzedek, then that's good. But if you're Sifsei Tzedek plus Dover Yesharim, then that's better. What do you guys think of that? I'll write it out actually just to get it into just to formulate it. Okay. My intuition is what everyone above said. Okay, but the pasuk is telling us that there are two levels. A is those who can articulate righteous principles and policies, and B, those who have internalized them to the point where that's how they talk. Okay. And the first, the righteous lips is something beneficial, but the king should really favor the people who speak truthfully and embody that righteousness in every aspect of how they talk. Now, I realize I'm not being super clear on exactly what the difference is between these two, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the chiddush of the pasuk is that it is saying two levels, and ordinarily I'd be okay saying that the pasuk is is just repeating itself in different words. But to me, ratzon and yehav are two different levels. Like you don't say like do you like them or do you love them? Like those. No one just says that those are when you put them next to each other. No one just says that those are synonyms. So I think that's going to be an important step here.
Can I try to maybe
Yeah,
explain that a little bit more?
sure.
Maybe it's kind of like what I was trying to say before, like maybe say like a statement versus lips is more like a statement is more of like it's kind of like who you are, like a statement is kind of like defining like your lips in a way, in a sense of like this is who I am and this is how I live life, and like that's a statement. It's more like a statement it's not necessarily just your words. It could also be like how you act as well. I feel like it could take that into consideration too.
Yeah.
So it's possible to say that, for a melech to see that, for him to love that, maybe he himself will internalize that by meaning like the people who he surrounds himself with, if he sees that, oh, for instance, this guy is living life this way versus the other guy, he's going to keep that in mind. He's going to note that it's different than just desiring it.
Right. Yeah, that is what I'm trying to get at. And you reminded me of something also. I just want to see here. Dover. Dover is a weird way to say it. And I just want to see if it's actually weird or if I'm just thinking it's weird. What I'm thinking of is there's a pasuk in oh, what am I doing even? Hold on. Dover Yisharim. How do I do this? Dover. I thought I could just click it. Oh, I have to go like this. Hold on. Dover. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, no, that's not helping. All right, whatever. Anyway, I can't pursue that. Yeah, I was trying to find a riot for you in the word the formulation of Dover. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's side burner this also. Okay, unless anyone has anything else to add to this, and we'll take another approach. Let's go with the Rifki.
Okay, so I actually have two kind of different paths of thinking about it.
Okay.
The first one I think is just more similar, like just like a small add-on to what everyone was saying, and the other one's
Yeah.
completely different.
Okay.
So I was thinking that like on the he will love part, because it's just like a funny way. I think it's a funny thing to say.
Yeah.
So for what everyone else was saying, I think that it's like hard for anyone, and especially when you're in a position of power and you're used to people, like we were saying, maybe agreeing with you because you are in a position of power, that if this person is like a good king and he's actually like going against his inclinations to surround himself with the type of people that like Ayala was saying, then he actually will come to love it eventually, like if he's going in the right direction. So I just thought
Okay.
that was like an interesting point.
Okay, sure. Let me just take note of that here. So perhaps he will he will love him is telling the king that if he favors people like this and surrounds himself with them, then he will eventually come to love them, which is beneficial for his kingship. Yeah.
And then,
Okay.
okay, so the other thing is completely different. It might get
Yeah.
shot down, so we'll
Okay.
see. But I was actually thinking that I would rather read this pasuk as not for the king himself, but more for like his subjects.
Okay.
And the reason why is actually the same words, which I think is funny. I was really getting that from the he will love. Because
Yeah.
I think that why else would it say that? But to me, like it makes sense to say that if you are learning about someone else's desires, then it would be speaking to that audience.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking was that I think it's the natural inclination for a nation to want to obviously please the king. For whatever
Yeah.
reason, it could just be a basic reason of wanting to get in his good graces, to, get a good standing, whatever it is. Or it could be for a more like noble reason that you want to improve the society. Whatever the reason is, it's a very normal feeling. And I think that with that comes the desire to kind of just like agree. So like kind of like
Yeah.
what I was saying, but on the opposite end, that in the
Yeah.
in the subject's nature, that's why they feel like that.
Yeah.
But this is saying no, that really that the king will actually come to love and like appreciate if you don't just always agree with him and say what he wants to hear, because at the end of the day, like he hopefully will be a king. And this is where I'm having a little bit of trouble because we're like, oh, is it true? So I think like that's the only struggle I'm having approach, but I like the idea.
I like also this is a good approach. Right. So in other words, it's saying if you want to be favored by and loved by a king, so you will have a natural inclination to just say whatever they whatever like curries favor with them or whatever they makes them feel good. But really you should say what's righteous and upright, and then the king will favor and love you, you know. And I think the support for this is like I'll just say like you know, support is, you know, I'm sure like people who are in positions like this are constantly questioning whether they can trust anyone.
Exactly. And that's what I was thinking. I was thinking about the paranoia.
Yeah, right. So they will automatically value someone whom they know is being honest. And that honesty will show when they say things that the king, you know, doesn't want to hear, you know. And I do think in terms of like, you know, I think the other advantage of this approach is this does not look, this doesn't have to be true in every case, right? That's not how Mishlei works, right? But I think that it does not have to be a righteous king in order for this to work. And you might even say that might be why it says the will of kings, because this is talking about all kinds of kings, you know, not just if it said the will of a king, then maybe it'd be like Isaiah was saying that this is the ideal king, you know. I'm just going to add this here also, which is that perhaps this is why it says kings, plural, implying, you know, all kings, even those who aren't righteous, instead of saying king, which might imply like the ideal king. Yeah. All right. I like this idea.
Also,
And this is a useful idea for any position of leadership as well, or sorry, any subject who's in workplace or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also what I liked about it. And then just an example, I was thinking like also about Paro, with Yosef, that like Yosef he wasn't just telling him what he wanted to hear. I mean, obviously we know there's like different layers involved, you know, like Hashem was with Yosef, whatever. But even that being said, that Yosef literally told him like, hey, like, you know, your country that you're supposed to be like God over and like have all this power is literally going to be in a famine. And he listened and he appreciated.
Right. All right, that's good. You know, you mentioned Yosef. I think Sadigon in his commentary mentions Yosef, but I don't know what he says. So let me just read it really quickly. I didn't translate it. So he says, hold on here. I'm just going to write the English. Okay. Sadigon says, Kfi shegala Yosef Masha belev sarise haro. According I don't know why I'm saying according to what Yosef revealed when Shigala Yosef Masha believe Sarise Paro Kasher Ra Pneim Zoafim Kumush Nemar Vehim Zoafim Pchin Sarah Sarisim Amar Ladinil Hanim Mishnah Bazara. No, this is different. All right, never mind. This is talking about how he related to the officers. Okay, but yeah, all right. Your example is still good, even if Sadiq doesn't say it. Okay, good. I like this idea a lot. Yeah, I'll just put example Yosef telling Paro about the famine, even if he didn't want to hear it. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example. I mean, because you mentioned Daniel. Daniel is an even bigger example because Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar his dream, and the dream was your Malchus is going to end. You know, and it turns out that Nebuchadnezzar denied, you know, like tried to overcome that or whatever. But he loved Daniel so much that he made him into a god. You know, and so that's a pretty good raya. Okay, next is my dad.
This is so close to what Ricky was saying that you just said. My thought was, what happens when you disagree with the king? How do you handle that?
Yeah,
and the king needs to have the capacity for self-examination, and you need to target expressing your disagreement as highlighting the righteousness.
Okay, yeah.
As opposed to the practicality of it or pleasing the people or whatever. Whatever, you need to focus on the righteousness.
Okay, that's interesting. So this one I think is a harder sell, not in terms of the pasuk, but in terms of like how often it's going to be true, you know. So this is a case where you disagree with the king, and the pasuk is advising you to highlight the righteousness of what you're saying, rather than other factors. Meaning, I do think that this is good, but I think that this will work less with a bad king, whereas I think Rivki's approach will work even with like evil or bad kings, because everyone is going to want people who they can trust. So yeah. All right, Isaiah.
Yeah, so I want to go back to, I mean, I guess you could use the way that I was saying it's not such a question of if this is true, or you could say that it's like side you're going. I think those two aren't that different, meaning you could either say this is defining what's a true king, or you should say it's telling you what a king should do. I think those are really close to each other.
Yeah.
But regardless, what I think this is saying is that like a king is only one person, and he only has so much like power with like what he could do with his own speech and with his own mind. But he has a lot of power in terms of like influencing other people and the publicity of like what he says. So what I think it's saying is that he should like have like his will be towards like people who speak righteously. Like he should endorse like righteous speech and like say that those things are that what that person is saying is good, because like that will do a lot for the nation when he speaks out in favor of righteousness. And I think especially like someone who is speaking in a manner that's like upright is like especially good for the nation, because like someone who's yashar, it's like there's a certain like clearness to that fact. Like a person who's speaking like in an upright manner, like you can like tell that they're speaking in an upright manner, and that is like an orderly thing for a nation to like recognize and to highlight. Is like someone who is like talking in a way that's like not duplicitous and like not like potentially like having their own agenda. It's like clearly this person is doing things in like an upright manner, and that's good. And the king should like not just endorse that, but like he should love a person who speaks like that.
Okay, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah, so that is really uh about the best way for the king to use his platform, and I like the idea of like the mouthpieces of the king. Yeah, it is very interesting, by the way. This was so much more true in, I'm going to actually add this. This was far truer when kings literally weren't capable of directly communicating with all their subjects, right? So now, I mean, I guess from in in literate societies, you could have a king like issue a proclamation or whatever, but like that's also going to be very, very limited. Now you can have a king who tweets, or who like or who just addresses, I guess it started with the radio, right? Was FDR's fireside chats. I don't know which world leaders like first started using radio to like really communicate with their subjects, but or King George, the fifth or whatever. But yeah. So especially in Shlomo's time, is the point I'm making, is that he really needs all the people on all the entire chain going all the way down to be speaking righteously in order to present that on his behalf. Now it is still important, but just less important because everyone can hear the king. So his own values are more directly relayed. But I think this is a good idea, though. Okay. All right. These are good approaches. Let's look at some meforshim. Okay. So as I showed you, Metzudas David, who's usually our first go-to, I don't think there's anything we could get out of him beyond what we have. Lips of tzedek are statements of tzedek. Okay, so he even like erases one of the questions we had, right? It's just saying lips don't even pay attention to that. And then Yehav El HaMalachim, he will be beloved to the kings. Yeah, don't know what to say. Okay, Rבינו Yona. This is different. Okay, so this is ChatGPT translation, but I will modify it if need be. Ratzon Malachim tzedek afal pi shelo yitavu ki im asos resha. Okay, even though they do not despise anything other than doing wrong. Okay, I think this is a reference to our last pasuk, but it's been so long I don't remember. Mishlei 16:12. Yeah, an abomination of kings is the doing of wickedness. So that's doing wickedness. because with righteousness the throne will be established. So now, so even though they don't despise anything other than doing wrong, hachadal min haresha b'maiseh uvelashon lo yitav, but hold on, I don't think this is a good translation. Hold on a second. Let me just start on my own. Even though they, i.e., the kings, only abominate, or I guess loathe, we'll say loathe, one who does wickedness. Hachadal min haresha b'maisa uvelashon lo yitav. I think this is saying, but one who refrains from doing evil in deed, but doesn't abhor it in speech. Aval ritzono v'avaso l'dover yisharim. But okay, I'll modify it afterwards. Okay, but I'm gonna just delete all this. I don't trust it anymore. Okay, but his favor and love are for one who speaks upright. Who bocher hayashar, for he chooses what is right. V'hachafetz sheyigaber hayosher v'haemes ba'aretz, and he desires for for uprightness and truth to rule the land. Al Kain, therefore, who dover yisharim, devarim yisharim, he speaks upright statements. V'lo yishtok lahachanif, and he doesn't silence himself in order to flatter. Okay, that's like the quality Rivki was talking about. V'shelo litlos al hashever ha'emes. And then footnote says, V'shelo litlos is near shekav naso elo lahanish miyad koloshin hagemara zechus tole. And he doesn't delay punishment for a breach of truth. Okay, so I don't know if I translated this correctly, but let's just see if we can make sense of it. Even though they, I mean, it sounds like he's addressing what the point my dad made about what about wicked action. So I think what he's saying just factually here is this is what we call I don't think I've talked about this here in a while. I mentioned this in yeshiva, that one of the theories that my old Mishlei Chavrusa, who's now my Tehillim Chavrusa, Ken and I came up with. So Ken came up with this theory called the middleman theory of Mishlei, which is that every pasuk in Mishlei with opposites, there are two people who the pasuk is talking about and a person in the middle who it's not talking about. And this is consistent with that because he's saying that they're the people who do evil, which was the previous pasuk, and then there's the unspoken person who doesn't do evil, but they also don't reject evil speech. Okay, that pasuk is not talking about that. And then there's the person who speaks, who hates even speaking evil, and he loves true statements and certainly does true things. So let me summary of facts. Okay, which is that there are people who do evil that the king abhors. Then there are people who don't do evil, but they have no problem speaking evilly. And the pasuk doesn't comment. Then our pasuk talks about people who don't do evil, but they speak and act righteously, and actively promote it in the kingdom. Okay, those are the people the king loves. Okay, so the question is, what's the main idea? Assuming that this is the facts are correct, but if you challenge me on the facts, then speak up, because that's what I think the facts are right now. What's he saying here? And just to show you, the idea is going to come from like this hierarchy, right? That the king doesn't. Well, we know the king doesn't like people who do evil because they threaten to undermine. That was our whole idea last time. Just to go back to that really quickly again. Um, the yeah, because wickedness is gonna be parasitic and is gonna erode the throne. Um, okay, fine. That was at least my idea. I mean, you had other ideas. And then there are people who don't do evil, but they still speak this they so what does the fact that they speak evil indicate? It indicates that they still have bad values, right? That um they don't recognize the harm of these bad values, even though they're not willing to act on it. Then they are they still will they don't see it as bad enough to actively shun. And then there are people who are going to go out and actively promote goodness. What is it saying about this? And those are the people who the king's going to love. I mean, this sounds like it is talking that's taking Rifki's approach that it's advising people who are subjects because it's saying it's informing people, hey, if you want, these are people who the king loves. I'll tell you what comes to my mind. I mean, this is not even a case of this is not even a case of of a king. Give me 1 second. Let me just think for a second. Yeah, I won't say the specific example, but like sometimes you do hear people speaking with admiration about people doing bad stuff and getting away with it. And you got to wonder, like, can I really trust this person? Like it's almost like if they're saying that, then like they too would just like an opportunity where they could get away with it. Um, yeah, Rifki?
Well, I think I'm not sure if you said this, you might have already said it, but I think also just for the king, like I think it could work for both of them because on the king side, even if people aren't necessarily acting in a evil way, but they're speaking in a bad way, then for him, it's very likely that they're going to start because we know obviously actions and words are very tied together. So
Yeah,
even if they're not doing it right now, I think it's very likely that they will, which will be bad for the
right.
king. Obviously, you don't want a nation that's doing bad things. And
Yeah,
obviously for the nation, then if they're even if they think that, oh, I'm just saying this, like
yeah,
they don't have control over that necessarily. And then obviously it'll be bad for them because who would want to live in a unjust society?
yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and just state what we do have so far, okay, and then we'll move on and just come back if need be. So um as long as a person doesn't overtly like, hold on a second. If a person is still content to speak positively about wrongdoing, then even if you have no evidence that they're engaged in evil deeds, you should be suspicious of them. The fact that they can speak with admiration about something bad shows that they don't truly recognize its badness, and that value system um, will always be latent and might emerge. So, so if you're a king, then don't draw those people close, but instead go for the opposite extreme. Um, those who don't speak bad and promote good. And then if you're a subject, and you want to get close to the king, then you need to completely remove this kind of speech from your speaking habits and take on the opposite quality. And I don't mean that in a dishonest way, like, but it will work, you know. I mean, meaning like if you actually I think, yeah. See, I feel like people make this mistake all the time where they will avoid saying things. Here's a classic example in the modern world. Classic example is someone's running for office or has a job, and like all of their public statements are saying like stuff that will make them popular, and then someone uncovers like a dark history of their Twitter or whatever, you know, and you see them making a bunch of like abhorrent statements, you know. That does affect people. Like people will, and yeah, it's possible for people to change, but people will look at that and say, well, if you can just talk so freely in like, you know, inappropriate terms or racist terms or sexist terms, where like, what does that show about you, about your values, you know? So, and you're not going to be favored by someone who is looking to be in power, you know? So I think that's a contemporary application of this Rבינו Yona. Okay, let's look at who else do I want to show. Uh, Oh, Rabak has a very different idea. Okay, so this is our new friend. We haven't used him so much tonight, but Rav Sheshet ben Yitzchak Gorondi, this new Rishon, who we don't really know who he is, but his whole thing is he explains the sequence of psukim. So he says it further states that it is the due. Actually, I'm going to read this in Hebrew. Od Yomer ki mechok hamalachim. It's the protocol of kings who liosam bochrim ba'anshe ha'emes v'tzedek. This is going according to our approach, to choose men of truth and righteousness. All of their ministers and servants should only be upright people. If these people are thieves or people who engage in extortion, mitam hamelach osim uverkoch bayim, they will be acting on behalf of the king and with his ability. And the only one who has authority over them is the one who is the ruler. Therefore, it's fitting for the kings to be surrounded by people who are good. So, I mean, what does this sound like he's saying? I mean, he starts off the way that we said it, but it sounds like his message is different. So we'll start off. I'll just start us off here, which is that a king should surround himself entirely with upstanding individuals, because if he has any officers who are crooked, okay, then what? What do you think his idea is? Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't see your hand because it blended into the
it's thing. Just I just put it up. So
okay.
Okay. But maybe that it's like that their actions are really his, like coming from him, and so it's his responsibility.
Yeah, I think so. Then their misconduct will be, you know, traced back. No, not traced back. That's the wrong word. Will tarnish his reputation, because they're acting on behalf of him, right? So I think there are many examples of this. You know, I don't think we need to go through examples, right? But again, I think this is the you know, we actually had a similar idea to this in my morning Mishlei class last week. What do we do? Mishlei 15:6, which was, yeah, the house of the righteous is greatly fortified, but with the arrival of the wicked one, it becomes sullied. And one of the ideas we had was, did I write down my idea? Oh, yeah. Yeah, is no matter how good of an operation a tzaddik sets up, the mere association with the Russia can corrupt it in the perception of others. And we mentioned that I think I mentioned as an example, like let's say you are a tzaddik who is running a charity organization, and you genuinely are good and want to do good, but you accidentally allow someone to donate who is found out to be a thief, you know. And so that's going to tarnish your reputation because now you're the one who's profiting from this guy, you know. Or if he's doing actions that are, let's say you have a president who's running an election campaign and he's honest, but one of his underlings uses dirty means, so that's going to go back and be blamed on the president because clearly he's acting on his behalf, so this is a word of the wise to surround yourself with good actors. Okay. Let's see. I think I wanted to do Rabag, and then maybe we'll switch to the NR portion of the shiur. Okay, so the Rabag says, okay, so yeah, this is interesting. Okay, I'm not going to say what the funny thing is he's doing, but see if you can say what is the funny. You're going to sense something funny is going on. Okay, he ratzon malachim. So the will of kings, who sifsei tzedek is lips of tzedek. Bameshi ya'idu, in that they testify be'edus with testimony, besipuri hakodmim with accounts from earlier times. Kamoshi tztarach zeh b'chachmos, just like you need this in the sciences. Asher lo tishlam ha'amida al ma shitztarach lamod alav minachush behem ki im bizman aruch nifla yavur hachaim ha'enushim. Just as in the sciences, where one cannot fully grasp what must be understood from sensory experience alone, without an exceedingly long period that surpasses a human lifetime. Like in astronomy, and in many natural sciences. Umishu dover yisharim, and someone who loves uprightness, Yehav, he will be loved. Ki hayosher b'dvarim yashiruhu limtso ha'emes b'meshi yichakru bo. Because because uprightness in statements will guide one to find the truth in whatever they investigate. Okay, so first of all, like factually, like as a summary here, right? So what is he saying this is about? Like, does not sound like he's talking about kings, right? Or is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. But he's using an example not from kings. So let's just say plain shot. Yeah. Go ahead, Ayala.
I may be fully misunderstanding, but is he saying that kings should surround themselves by people who like chase truth or are righteous, which means that they'll be really good, let's say, scientists and historians and political philosophers. That way he could use all of their knowledge.
Yeah, so he might be getting to that message. But I feel like the key point here is, this is not a good translation. The will of kings is lips of tzedek, bamesh ya'idu, in that they testify be'edus with b'sipur hakodim, with true testimony of earlier events. And then he gives the analogy of science. And then he says the moral of the story. And one who speaks uprightly, I'm going to say in this manner, will be loved. For uprightness in words guides one to find truth in whatever they investigate. So I don't think he's just saying find people who are, investigating like this, or yeah. So let's just use his analogy for a second, okay? So in his analogy, so he's saying just like in the natural sciences, the data collection is so long and arduous that it's impossible for any one person to accomplish it. Okay, so for example, the ancients relied on astronomical observations made over the course of centuries, okay? Because no one person can witness all the permutations of the heavenly bodies. Okay. Okay, and just like, sorry, and in these collections of data, you need accurate information because you're totally dependent on that testimony. And if it's wrong, then your conclusions will be wrong. Okay, so too, a king, okay, and that's where he's going. Right. So what's the analogy for the king? I think what this is saying is a king needs to be able to rely on accurate reporting because he needs to know so much about his kingdom that there's no way he can observe everything on his own. Like you look at the way that modern presidents and world leaders have to react. Like the president needs to get briefings from like his experts in all these areas, and those experts need to get data from all this other place. And so he needs people who are going to relay things accurately, because he can't gather it all on his own. So it sounds like he's saying like Dover Yesharim. So upright speakers uh, is a combination of honesty and accuracy. And the king is totally reliant on such people. And same thing in a company. So in other words, like the science analogy is over time. Like you can't gather it all in one lifetime. The king, it's in terms of breadth. Like the king can't watch everything that goes on in his kingdom. So he needs people to report accurately to him. Yeah. So the main idea, I mean, who's this for? I mean, I think it could be for the king and for the subjects. For the king, this tells him what kinds of people he'll need. Okay. And then for the subjects, this tells them what kind of people they need to be. So for example, like if you are in a position at work where you are reporting to someone about facts, so then you need to show absolute accuracy and reliability on those and comprehensiveness on those facts without embellishment, without like omitting things that are important observations that need to be communicated. And the person in power needs to feel that you can be their eyes and ears. So I'll give an example. Hold on. Pause. Okay. Anyone else have any observations on this? Not, then we'll summarize and conclude the Mishlei portion, the Mishlei pasuk portion. Okay, so we had several approaches to summarize. We had our group approach, which is that this is telling you, it's telling the king who he should surround himself with, that there's a temptation to surround himself with other qualities, with people who have other qualities that seem advantageous. But at the end of the day, uh, righteousness and honesty, or whatever you want to say, setting and yosher are going to be of the best service to him. And what was I going to say? I wanted to make the distinction between people who could just formulate righteous things versus if they live it and embody it and speak it, like the speech being a reflection of who they truly are. But we didn't really, I think the message is good no matter how you interpret the particulars here. Then we have Rivki's idea, which is that the thing that the king is going to value most is honesty, because he's going to, the natural inclination is that people are going to want to be yes men and are going to want to flatter him in order to curry favor. So he's going to really value people who speak truthfully, even if it's not something that the king likes. And that's how you're going to get close to him. And that's like a very good Mishlaic idea, because it's saying, oh, you think you're going to get close to him through this way? No, that's going to make things worse, but this is the way you're going to actually get close to him. And yeah, that's for the subjects. Isaiah had this idea about how the king has limited range in terms of his power, so he has to appoint people who value truth and righteousness in their speech, so they could promote that everywhere. Rav Shishas ben Yitzchak Gorondi said that this is talking about reputation, and a king has to have all of his officers with pristine reputation, because any bad action is going to be attributed to him or is going to ruin his reputation or taint it. Rabinu Yona had this idea of distance yourself from people who don't abhor wickedness in speech, even if they don't do it in action. Surround yourself with people who are constantly like promoting righteousness everywhere. And then the Rabag said that you need to rely on accurate reporters if you're in a position of power. And you'll value that because you need all the data and you can't get all the data on your own. So you're going to really, really be relying on people who can observe accurately and then speak accurately and honestly. Okay. That ended up being very useful. A lot of different applications. Okay, so I'm going to now stop this recording.